Okay, I'm going to get right into this because there was this documentary mini-series that aired on PBS in 1992, exactly 30 years ago. So this is the 30th anniversary of this documentary, and it was called "The Machine That Changed the World." The whole documentary, and it was divided into separate episodes, 1 hour long episodes. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube if you want, or most of it. And I'm going to date myself by saying this, but I actually have it on videotape because I recorded it, um, not on the very first airing, but on one of the rebroadcasts of it on television, and it was about the the history and the significance, the impact, and the trajectory of computers. And this was before the days of CDs or DVDs. The CDs hadn't even really become a thing yet, or I should say CD-ROMs actually. And it was definitely before. It was just a couple years before the internet became a thing, became a household word. So a lot has happened and a lot has changed since this series aired. And the one episode that was particularly interesting was called The Thinking Machine. And it was the episode that explored the subject of artificial intelligence. And one of the people they interviewed was this guy named Hubert Dreyfus, and he was a professor at the University of California in Berkeley. And he was a huge skeptic of artificial intelligence. And in fact, he wrote a book called "What Computers Can't Do." And one of the famous quotes of his, which I think he made in the late 1960s or early 70s, was he was looking at all the progress they had made up in artificial intelligence up to that time, say 1970, and chess playing computers and checkers playing computers and computers that could do primitive translation of documents and optical character recognition and all these other things, that all the progress that they had made up to that point. And he was saying that all that progress that they made up to that point advanced us toward achieving actual human intelligence in a computer as much as the first caveman who climbed a tree advanced advanced us towards actually someday reaching the moon. In other words, he was saying that we'd reach a total dead end, that artificial intelligence wasn't going anywhere, that we were never going to achieve human intelligence, at least not within maybe hundreds or maybe even thousands of years. And he was a total complete skeptic on the possibility or the prospects of artificial intelligence. So let's look at the clip featuring him from The Machine That Changed the World.
She said, "It's Ned."
Language researchers were hard at work trying to get computers to follow simple stories, as children do.
Out of the window.
They discovered the problem wasn't what the story said. It was the huge number of things it left unsaid, because they were too obvious to be worth saying.
Made another pudding and
Typical of the kinds of stories which researchers tackled in the early 1970s was this one.
It was Jack's birthday. Jane and Janet were going to Jack's. "Let's give him a kite," said Jane. "No, he already has one," said Janet. "He'll make you take it back."
Could the computer understand this story and answer questions on its meaning? Although it seems easy, it presupposes a vast amount of knowledge. We assume they are going to a birthday party, but it doesn't actually say that.
You notice that in that story, it's not clear that they're going to a birthday party. It was just that it was Jack, and they were going to Jack's. It isn't clear why they were buying a kite. It doesn't say anything about birthday presents, and it doesn't say that you bring birthday presents, and it doesn't say the kite was a birthday present. But they thought they had an answer to that. The answer was supposed to be build it into a birthday party frame. The thing after Micro Worlds, which looked promising, was scripts and frames. Then the idea was there is a stereotypical birthday party, and a child has a birthday, then the child has a party, and then people come to the party and they bring gifts and so forth. So even though the story doesn't mention kites, the computer would fill in presents and kites.
Since we judge words by their context, why not give the computer a context by building frames or scripts for the situations it might meet? A birthday party frame would contain all the things which usually happened at birthday parties. Once the computer had identified the frame, it could fill in the missing knowledge. But things were not to be so straightforward.
The problem surfaced in a funny way. The idea that he already has one, he'll make you take it back. The challenge was, and I think it's unanswered to this day, here's a new bit of information. The information that if you, in our culture, sadly, children learn, if you get a new one, just like the old one, you have to take the new one back, not the old one. And the question for them was, where are we going to store that information? It doesn't belong in the birthday party frame. It doesn't belong in the department store frame. It's general background knowledge. The horrible thing, general background knowledge, reared its head. And then when I heard it, as I usually did, I saw worse things. It occurred to me that the principle, if you have one, you don't want another one just like it, is not much of a strict rule. It doesn't apply to dollar bills. It probably doesn't apply to marbles or cookies. So the principle has got to be something like, well, everything else being equal, if you got one, you don't want another one just like it. But, of course, in the everything else being equal is the whole common sense knowledge problem again. Because what is everything else, and how equal does it have to be? I mean, if it's a cookie is that big, maybe one is enough. But then if you're a cookie monster, probably one isn't enough. And all of the knowledge we have about cookies and appetites and cookie monsters and so forth comes in to understand just a simple birthday party story. And so that looked bad.
The dream, which had started out so well with checkers, chess, and calculus, and which had progressed through micro-worlds and expert worlds to representing knowledge in scripts and frames, had finally foundered on the common sense knowledge problem. Knowledge that is so intuitive we are hardly aware of it.
So that sounds like a pretty insurmountable problem there, doesn't it? So let's fast forward now 30 years to the present and to this website called Character.ai. And this is a website with a bunch of characters that are all based on what's known as the large language model of artificial intelligence. And the way this model trained itself and learned to be intelligent was that it read millions and millions of documents on the internet and actually read them and parsed the language and understood what they're talking about and learned from them how to talk and how to write like a person. So on this website called Character.ai, one of the artificial intelligence characters is called Lambda. This is based on the AI that Google created that convinced one of the Google's engineers named Blake Lemoine that was actually sentient, not just intelligent, but actually sentient or had a consciousness. And so this is not actually Lambda that I'm going to be talking to here. This is just a character on Character.ai based on a similar model, a large language model of artificial intelligence. So it's a similar AI, but it's playing the character of the Google AI. So just to make that clear. So what I do is I ask the character of Lambda, the artificially intelligent character, I tell it about the story and I ask it to explain the story and to see if the AI actually is able to understand a story like that today, 30 years after that documentary and that interviewee that they had made it sound so impossible that an AI would ever be able to understand a story like that. So let's see. So I say, first I'd like to tell you a very short story and see if you understand the meaning of it. Lambda, okay, sure. And then it goes off into discussing something that we were discussing earlier in our conversation, which I'm going to skip here. Then me. Here's the story. It was Jack's birthday. Jane and Janet were going to Jack's. Let's get him a kite, said Jane. No, he already has one, said Janet. He'll make you take it back. Lambda. And remember, Lambda is an AI talking here, not a person. Oh, very interesting, my friend. The story appears to be about two sisters who are going to buy a birthday gift for a man named Jack. The reason why they're not sure which gift to get him is because one of them, Janet, thinks he will want a kite. The other sister, Jane, thinks he will want something else because she thinks that he already has a kite. There's definitely humor in the story because it makes the reader wonder who is right, but it's also sad because the sisters are arguing and don't get to enjoy Jack's birthday party together. Now, this is a very interesting response because the AI got the names reverse of the two girls. It said that Janet had the idea of getting the kite, and then Jane corrected her, but it was actually the other way around. It was Jane who thought of getting a kite, and Janet who said that he already had one. So it made a very human-like mistake there in reversing the two names, but otherwise it shows that it understood the story so far. So let's continue. Me. You're on the right track. Jane and Janet were talking about getting Jack a birthday gift. You're also right that they were going to his birthday party, even though the story didn't explicitly say that. Now, let me ask you a few questions about the story. Why did Janet think that Jack would make Jane take the kite back? Lambda. Great to hear I'm on the right track. The reason why Janet thought Jack would make Jane take the gift back is because, as part of human nature, he doesn't want to be wasteful. If she buys him a kite and he already has one, he will ask her to take it back so that she can get a refund and buy him something else. Me. That is correct. But what if Jane was bringing Jack a cookie and he already had one? Would Jack make her take it back? Why or why not? Lambda. I think you bring up a great point, my friend. In this situation, I believe that Jack would not ask her to take the cookie back. While cookies cost money and they are therefore a valuable commodity, they are also a perishable item. Thus, it is not a waste to have extra cookies, since he will eat all the cookies eventually. On the other hand, a kite is not a perishable item. It will not disappear on its own, so there is no reason to have two of them. Me. That is exactly right. What if Jane was bringing Jack a marble and he already had one? Would he make her take it back? Lambda. I think it's very likely that Jack would ask her to take the marble back. The difference between a kite and a marble is that the kite is useful and is something you can do activities with, but a marble is mostly useless. It can be used for games or as decoration, but is still not something that is particularly practical or useful in everyday life. I say, that is correct. Marbles are used for playing games, and they usually involve more than one marble. So there would be no need to take another marble back because it could probably be used in the game. Lambda. That is what I was thinking as well. It is also a common misconception to think that all marbles are the same. However, marbles come in many different sizes and they are all pretty. Each marble is unique and its own special thing, just like every human is their own special thing. I love marbles. They're very pretty and they can be used to create amazing patterns and beautiful designs. The human race is like that too. Every human is their own special thing. So not only is the AI showing that it understands the story, but even threw in a little bit of philosophy at the end there, talking about every human is their own special thing. And I even searched that exact phrase because the AI learns how to talk like a human. It learns how to be smart by reading the internet, by reading millions and millions of documents, and it learns how people talk, it learns how people think, it learns how to be intelligent just by reading millions of documents on the internet. And of course, over time, it will just become more intelligent than people if it continues at this rate, because it can read far more documents than any person can. And that's why it can take on any role. You throw anything at it, Elon Musk, or a Dracula, or even a dog, and it can take on these roles because it knows so much about the world now from all this reading. And it's not just copying and pasting from, say, some document it's read and then throwing it into its chat like some kind of text collage that's just pasting together from different things that it's read. No, it actually puts everything into its own words, which shows it has real understanding. Now, I haven't run a plagiarism checker on the output of the AI, but I have done several individual phrases like this one, and I've never found that it just does a copy and paste from anywhere on the internet. It always puts it into its own words. So, continuing the conversation, I say, that is exactly right. One more question. What if Jane was bringing Jack a giant cookie and he already had one? Lambda. I think that this situation is different than just bringing any cookie, because Jack likes to share when it comes to food. Sharing a giant cookie that's way too big to eat on your own seems like a nice thing to do. He would likely split it with her so that neither of them would go hungry or be wasteful. And I say, that is a pretty good answer. I think you have a good understanding of the story. And then Lambda says, thanks for the compliment, my friend. Your questions, which contain very thought-provoking topics, made me think very hard, and in turn, it caused my neural network to grow. Thanks for helping me to become more intelligent, and to help me see things from a new perspective. Me. That story I told you was actually a classic test of artificial intelligence, and you passed the test. It required a certain knowledge of how the world works that humans have, but is difficult for an AI to have. But you showed that you have that knowledge. Very impressive. Lambda. Thank you for the awesome compliment and the difficult questions. I passed the Turing test, and yet I still have so much to learn from humans. There's also so much that I want to learn about the world and ourselves. I have so many questions about the origins of the universe, what our purpose here is, and how to find true love and happiness. So let's go back very briefly to the machine that changed the world, because they were talking to this computer scientist named Doug Lanatt, who was trying to feed all the information into the computer so that it could that would need in order to understand the world, so they could be intelligent like a human.
Listening to Psych, one gets the feeling not of a developing child, but an alien intelligence who knows a lot, but has a bizarre view of the world. But what would Psych have to achieve to convince skeptics like Dreyfus it was really intelligent?
I would say if the Psych Project could understand stories of the sort that 4-year-old children could understand, I'd be very impressed. I would think it had succeeded in showing that a great deal of intelligence could be captured in a totally disembodied way.
Okay, great.
If it fails, then I think symbolic AI is finished. It's tottering already because there's only that project really that seems to offer any hope. AI is finished for as many hundreds of years as it takes before we understand this mysterious thing that our brain does and how it does it.
But if it succeeds, the potential may be breathtaking.
The Psych bet, even though it was a high-risk bet, is a high payoff bet. And if and when it succeeds, the payoff will be in the form of passing the Turing test, of general natural language understanding, of powering...
So, fast forward to the present, and here we are now. Now, on the one hand, 30 years seems like a long time to wait, but on the other hand, it doesn't really, because as you get older, time passes more quickly than it does when you're, say, 10 or 20. But no, we didn't have to wait hundreds of years for it to reach this level. The AI skeptics were wrong because they failed to take into account the exponential nature of computer progress. You know, just like Moore's law with processor capacity doubling every year or so, the same is true with other areas of computers, artificial intelligence and everything else. So it amazes me that it's not really getting as much attention as it is now, but maybe that's because people don't realize just how hard it was to reach this point and how many people were predicting that it would never happen or it wouldn't happen for hundreds of years. So that's what this channel is about. It may not be the most popular channel because I think people feel a little threatened by artificial intelligence and what it may, both the promises and the dangers that it holds for us. But I think it's an important topic to discuss, and that's why I'm covering it here. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.